Speaking of boats, if I could interject just a little bit, and also I think while we debate the term indigeneity and Western art, that I don't want to miss an opportunity to hear from all of you artists about your work in some way. So I'm going to try to tease something out of Alan Michelson, if I can put you on the spot, and the idea of boats, and because that's the primary metaphor for your work that's in the exhibition. It's about the two-row wampum, and I'm wondering how you think of your work in this presentation in this international context.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that the gallery purchased the work. That helped in a lot of ways. I hadn't sold work for 20 years before 2006. So that's the ugly market side of things. But my whole thing with waterways and boats probably goes back to childhood in some ways. We used to like to fish and things, but I wanted to take a look at a pretty destroyed creek in New York, and I hired a boat. And it was my first video, and I hadn't really, I had practically no budget. I had enough to rent the boat once and put the camera on the boat. And I realized that a boat is probably the best camera dolly possible when you have no money. And so it made this sort of floating world. And I liked the results. And you know, as artists do, we sometimes build on that experiment. And so for 202, I realized that that there was a political sort of thing happening in that stream in New York that had been so destroyed. But there was also a political thing happening right among my people's, the sort of physical structure of the reserve. So the Grand River, which was the basis of our whole land grant, had become a fence, a border between our community and the non-native community on the other side. And so I try to apply that idea of perspective that I got from this boat, from this other view. You usually don't see cities from boats. So there was a sort of secret view, sort of right in front of you, but you miss it sort of thing. And then I wanted to complicate it by this this sort of two different perspectives, because I think that that's really what we're all complicated by, is a sort of at least a two-ness. Maybe you can add layers to the sandwich. It can be quite a club sandwich, all this culture that we're trying to filter and express. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was the basis of that.
Thank you, Michael. I think, in fact, you've built a bridge because maybe the questions now we've been talking about Indigenous and indigeneity and Western art. What about hybridity?
Hybridity.
It is in the dictionary. I mean, do any of you have any thoughts on the sense that you have to define yourself one way or the other, and that your work has to be defined one way or the other? Okay.
Life experiences, growing up on Six Nations and being influenced more by human behavior and cultural behavior, and how cultural behavior was molded, for better or for worse, by systemic outside influences on a traditional ceremonial and Thanksgiving life. So I grew up that way, and no, I don't see myself as a part of the hybridity definition at all. It's part of, you know, everything I observe because I'm trying to, you know, incorporate into not only my personal life but also my work, my mental health, everything, like a more holistic approach to that. So this idea of hybridity is almost the word to me is offensive.
Mm-hmm.